Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. I am your host, Charles King. Tonight, we're going to start our very first episode of what we're calling Money Thursday. Every Thursday, we will be bringing you a show that's alluding to finance, whether it's personal finance, business finance, uh, just different things that are going to basically help you, the everyday consumer, learn some things that's happening in the financial world. Now, I'll tell you guys a little bit something about myself. Again, I am your host, Charles King, but I'm also the creator of America in Black and White. I am naturally one of those people that's had the opportunity to deal with finances from many different levels. Um, I am also a consultant. I'm a professional tax preparer. I am also a blogger, and I'm also an author. And some things about me other than that is I am a military veteran, a veteran of the United States Navy. Well, I was there from 1986 to 1996. And just in all those endeavors and those things that I've been a part of course, it's always good to share those things with you guys, those that are watching this show, but also for those that are going to be needing a little bit more some inspiration in their lives. Again, what you guys should know about this show is this show it targets the underserved community, and those are the communities in which we try to uplift. It is our due diligence to get to those communities, to inspire, to motivate, to build them, and to save them from the gentrification that's happening around the world. So, those that are listening, those that are watching right now, um, I welcome any and every individual or business or company, whichever you want to call yourself, to reach out to me and, let's do this together because together we can do a whole bunch of things. Well, so back to the show tonight. Oh, well, one other thing. For those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, I would appreciate it if you would please subscribe and hit that notification button, because each and every time that there is an event or a show, and if you missed a show, or if you're about to miss the show, you'll get the notification that the show is taking place or there's new content. So for those that are actually right now sitting down, I would recommend that you please get yourself some paper, get yourself a pen, because the nuggets that I'm going to be dropping tonight are some things that we all can use in our lives that will help us to get to a point that we can do some things to help ourselves when it comes to our personal lives, when it comes to finance. Well, with that being said, let me just tell you guys again, welcome to our very first episode of Money Thursday. And we're going to delve into the world of finance, aiming to equip you with the insights and strategies to navigate your financial journey effectively. And so, just another thing of note is that besides the crib notes that I have, a lot of the information I'm going to be giving you guys is it's a lot of information, but also with that information, I want to make sure that the things that I'm telling you guys or I'm informing you guys about, I want to make sure that you get that information thoroughly. So please forgive me as I actually look down at my notes, because I want to make sure that you guys are getting this information. So the importance of money talk. Money is a topic avoided or misunderstood, yet it plays a pivotal role in our lives. Discussing finances openly fosters understanding and empowers individuals to make informed decisions. So, what that means is that in the process of having money, don't care how much, what the amount of money you have, it could be small or large. You could be in the bottom half or the bottom portion, of wage earners. You could be middle class. You could be in that top 1%, or you can be in the millionaire class. The information that we're giving here to you is to sell you one thing. Please be smart with the money that you have and don't use it frivolous. For those in the underserved communities, and I say underserved communities because this is a place in which I'm very familiar with because I have been there. And the thing is, sometimes you get so caught up with when you do have money and you don't think about how to use it or how to make it work for you, that as soon as you get it, you're spending it. This is the case for a lot of people. And in today's time, especially for those that are in the urban communities, or if you want to call them the Black communities, this message is primarily, really deep and personal to me because I want to make sure that in talking about this, that you guys understand. Please stop using your money frivolously and please start to save it and make it work for you in more ways than one. And when I say more ways than one, it's not just about saying you want to go and put your money in stocks or bonds or things of that nature. We're going to diversify that money. We're going to talk about diversity because it's very important that people understand what that means and how that works and how that's always most beneficial for each and every individual out there that wants to make money work for them. They want to have wealth, but also they want to have generational wealth to where they're able to leave, some part of a fortune or some assets to kids, family members, just going down the line. And so this is the importance of this when we're talking about just the importance of money talk. And that is, this is what we need to be learning about how we need to make money work for us. Now, understanding financial literacy. The importance of financial literacy, what I'm going to highlight for you here is I'm going to give you 4 points. And these are the 4 points that, as we're going along tonight, that I want to make sure that you guys actually follow and you make sure you make all of the right notes. And if you have any questions or concerns when this show is over, please write in the comments whatever questions or concerns you may have, and I promise you I will answer them and get back to you. Okay, those 4 points for the importance of financial literacy is knowing where your money is going, find easy places to save your money, treat yourself with confidence, and reimagine what's possible. Now, what that means is when you want to know where your money is going, that means that you need to keep track of how much money you're spending, what you're spending your money on. So if you're keeping track of that money and you know where that money is going, then you'll know if you're being frivolous or not with your money, because if you've got any goals of saving money and making money work for you, you're not just going to just go out and just spend your money just because. You're not going to do that. So you always want to know where your money is going. Second thing is when you say we find easy places to save. That means that if you're looking for a bank to save your money, you want to make sure you find a bank that's got, if you're starting out in the beginning and you're just now starting to try to make money, trying to put money aside where you can have money, especially for that rainy day, then you want to get one of those bank accounts that's free. There are no charges. And so it's kind of hard to find a really good bank that's got these products, but a lot of them do exist. If you're going to save your money, make sure that you're saving money with a bank that's not going to charge you an enormous amount of money, or you find a bank that you can actually start to invest in a Roth IRA. you know, where, that's tax deferred. So, that helps you out as well. When you say you want to treat yourself with confidence, that means that you've got this money stored. You know that if something comes up, or if you also happen to be a little bit short with what you have in your pocket, and you need some money to help you when it comes to a special event, you'll have that money. And so it's there. You're very comfortable about it. You're confident about it, and you just are not worried about a shortfall at all. When you say reimagine what's possible, this is for us that are actually working to the point that we're trying to create generational wealth. Now, there are several ways of doing that. You can create generational wealth by starting a small business, growing that small business, making sure that it stays consistent and sturdy, and it's actually doing what it needs to do for you. Because if you're being consistent and everything is working the way it's supposed to, 9 times out of 10, that business is going to be growing and you're going to be expanding. If you're just actually wanting to save money, you can put money in a savings account, and you can get one of those that's got no interest in the beginning. But once you've built it up to a particular point where you want to go on the high-end savings account, then you can always transfer that account, or you can just change the features of that account and make it a high-end account to where you'll get an interest rate, or you'll get interest on your money that's in that bank for, at the end of every month. So you always want to look for the best rates when you're doing so. Other ways of just saving your money, if you want to save, when you're reimagining, you're just thinking about primarily, though, from an overall perspective. What you're looking at is you just want to look for what you can do to create generational wealth, and how that's going to look 20, 30 years down the line. So, having your affairs in order, and whether it's your spouse or just family in general, with that being said, with having everything in order, they will know exactly what your wishes are, what you have done, and where to find the paperwork that's necessary. The next part to this, we're going to talk about some key concepts that we're going to cover. And in these key concepts, we're going to be talking about, basically, as far as your personal finance, we're going to be talking about some things that's going to be beneficial to you when it comes to saving your money, growing your money, and making your money work for you personally. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about is the first thing is budgeting, because budgeting is your friend. Budgeting and setting a budget, that's your roadmap. When we say that's your roadmap because you're tracking all of your expenses, and you're also tracking all the money that's coming in, all the revenues that you have. So once you can offset your revenues, you have your revenues to offset what you're spending for your expenses, and you know what you have over once you budget for like the whole entire month, then pretty much you can get a snapshot as to what this is looking like. So when we talk about budgeting, what I want you guys to know is budgeting is learning how to balance your bank account, can be a key to making sure what's going out of your account each month isn't exceeding what's coming in. Winging it and simply hoping is all about about what's in your account at the end of the month. Can lead to because if your account is let's say if your account is you have no money left in your account at the end of the month, then that can lead to bank fees and credit card debt, and keep you forever using your savings account. Now, that's something we don't want to do. Also, it can be helpful to break spending down into categories that include basic needs. That's rent, utilities, and groceries, discretionary spending, shopping, travel, Netflix, to get a real handle on where your money is going. And every day, you may want to track your spending for a month or so, either with a diary or an app on your phone. So again, it's been made very easy for how you can set a budget. And so when you get a budgeting spreadsheet, because those templates are all throughout Microsoft 365, or else you can download them online for free. QuickBooks has several of them. And there are other accounting firms that put out free budgeting worksheets, the online, where you can download and you can basically use this as your own personal roadmap. And so the last thing I want to tell you about budgeting is, once you know everything that typically comes in and goes out each month, you can see if you're going backwards, staying even, or ideally getting ahead by putting money into savings each month. Now, I know that this is hard for a lot of us because a lot of us, maybe living paycheck to paycheck, and we try to budget and we double up, or we may catch an expense, where we let an expense carry over into the next month. So by doing that, which is not a good thing, but, this is what a lot of us are doing, and we should not be doing that. And just recommend that, when we talk about sacrifice, guys, you got to do some kind of sacrifice in some shape, form, or fashion. And I'm talking about, for those of you that want to go out and spend $2,000 on a concert ticket to see somebody in concert, that's definitely not worth it. That is definitely not worth it. Why would you spend $2,000 on something like that when you're never going to get that back? There's nothing to show for it. But the only thing that you're going to be able to look at is when you look at your bank account, you're going to be like, well, wait a minute, $2,000. That right there in itself, you could have most likely covered at least four of your expenses outside of paying rent or a mortgage. Let's be wise. Anything that's unreasonable, a $2,000 concert ticket, $50 to go to the movies. If you're going to go to the movies, we know movie tickets now cost $20, $25. But if you're going to spend the additional $25 for that high-priced popcorn, that candy, and that soda, that in itself is going to cost you an additional $30+. So there's other ways of doing that. Sometimes you may want to sit back and not go to the movies, because this is where your streaming comes in, where you can pay that easy $9, $10 a month, where you can get Netflix and you can get Prime. You can watch all the movies that you want. Now there's Tubi, which is free. So you also, you got Apple TV. Apple TV is just $9.99 a month. So, we got to come up with other ways. We got to get creative, but we've got to get to the point where we've got to be saving money, because what your goal should be is to have yourself enough money in a rainy day fund that you can carry yourself out those 90 days, at least 90 days. And what I'm going to challenge each and every individual that's watching tonight, if you guys feel like you can do this and you want to do this, just reach out to me and we can do it together. We can do it together. But we got to be honest about it, and we got to hold ourselves accountable to what's important to us. Spending frivolously? No, sir. That don't work. Does not work. So I'm here to make sure that we can understand how this is supposed to work. So again, once you got that budgeting spreadsheet, and you get one from the Microsoft 365, or the ones from any of these other places, they're already pre-formatted. The only thing you have to do is stick your assets there in the top, your revenues in the top. Everything that you got coming in as income is on the top. Everything that's expenses is on the bottom. And so as you put those in for the month, even the other spending, which is the waste spending, which we all need to work on cutting down, but all that's documented. So when you see, if you've got any money left over from that month, that's where you need to start doing your savings. Or before you do anything else, put aside in your savings account, create a savings account, and put in there $20 per pay period. $25. Make it $25. Because I think if you do those $25, then you start to see the value as the months pass. So try to set a goal of at least $25 a month that you put into a savings account. If you can do it twice a month, based on your paychecks or your pay history, then that's fine as well. But put that money in a savings account and then start to see what it looks like when you get your 6-month period, to where as you're saving this money and it's growing like you want it to, then just think about the way you could possibly reinvest this to actually get more money on top of that money. The next thing we're going to talk about is building that emergency fund. You can't predict when your car will break down or when you'll have to make an emergency trip to the dentist. If you don't have money saved up for what life throws at you, you can risk racking up high interest credit card debt or defaulting on your bills. To avoid this, you may want to start putting some money aside every month to build an emergency fund. A common rule of thumb is to keep 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses set aside in a separate savings account. It can be a good idea to choose an account where the money can earn interest, but you can easily access it if you need it. Good options include high-yield savings account, only savings account, or a no-fee bank account. So again, if you're just starting out, like I said before, if you're not gaining interest on the money, but you still put money aside, that's a good thing because you're building. But if it's you don't have to necessarily go out with the high yield account, because if you go out with the high yield account, then that means you've got to maintain a minimum balance in those kind of accounts. If you don't have that kind of money, then there's no need to go jumping all the way to the top of the sky, because by doing that, you're doing yourself just as much harm as you would by spending your money. So just do a basic account to start out. See where you're going. Look at how much money you're able to save over a 6-month period. It will give you some time to think how to reassess. When you reassess, then you realize being disciplined and what discipline means to you, how it's going to help you out a whole lot in the end. The next thing you want to do is this is called avoiding a credit card balance. When you have a credit card at your disposal, it can be tempting to charge more than you can afford. But carrying a balance from month to month makes those purchases considerably more expensive than they started. The reason is that credit cards have some of the highest interest rates out there, often over 20%. That means a small charge carried over several months can quickly balloon into a much larger sum. The same is true for other high interest debits or high interest debt, such as some private or payday loans. So in other words, when you have a credit card, nowadays with when inflation went up and the feds raised interest rates, remember mortgage loans went up to as much as 7%, and credit card interest went up to 25%, some even higher depending upon your credit. Now, when you get a credit card, despite how good your credit may be, and you have this high interest, that might not be worth doing. This is where you actually have to take the time to read the fine print and make sure you make the best judgment for yourself and how this is going to affect you in the long run. Because does it make sense? Does it make sense to go and use a credit card to charge a dinner at Burger King? The dinner at Burger King is $10 and you use your credit card. Now think about this. If on that credit card, if your interest rate is already, as mentioned here, 25%, on that purchase, you're paying 25% on that $12 meal. 25%. That's not smart at all. That is definitely not smart. Which means if you're going to have credit cards, you need to start using these credit cards only on purchases that have that value that's not going to run up the credit card. Where if you had to take a trip and you're flying, let's say you're going to take a trip over to California and you live in North Carolina. That trip to California is most likely going to cost you in the range of $800 to $900. If that's going to cost you between $800 and $900, you don't have the cash. Now, your credit card that you're going to use, because you're going to use a credit card, then that means that that purchase itself, yeah, it's going to charge you interest on it. But if you have, let's say, a balance of if a credit limit of, let's say, $10,000 on that credit card, and you may want to charge make your flight reservations as well as hotel reservations. Combined, they may cost you that $3,000. Okay, that over a short period of time is much easier for you to pay off than it would be for you charging $500 and you're paying the minimum balance. Now, a lot of us do that. I know logically it doesn't make sense. But if your pockets can't pay but that minimum, then you got to pay that minimum. Just the thing is, you need to try to be finding a way to double up on that payment, because you definitely do not want to just do minimum. Doing just minimum is going to cost you more in the long run. So if you got a minimum balance, let's say that a minimum payment that you have to make, that's $40. Pay $60. Pay $70. But don't just pay that $40, because that's not going to do you a whole lot of good in the long run. And so you want to always avoid that credit balance, because what they do at the credit card company is they calculate the balance on the card or the charges on the card every month at that interest rate plus. So you're paying more. And so that's what you want to be mindful of. The next thing you want to do is you want to pay your bills on time. Pay your bills on time. Not 1 day late, not 5 days late, which is a grace period. Pay them on time. Because you have a grace period, that does not mean that you're not going to rack up extra interest. In this day and time in the financial world, believe me, you're being charged for everything. Charges are not the norm. Regular charges are not the norm, shall I say. They are actually making more and more money off you every time you think you're paying on time, but you're late. And if they call you on the phone and, your bill is due on the 5th, Your bill is due on the 5th, but you want to wait to pay it on the 10th, even though they tell you that you have up until the 12th before they charge you any interest. That's not true. You're late if you don't pay it on the 5th. Pay your bills on time. If you miss bill payments or make late payments, your creditors might impose late payment penalties. If you delay payment for a prolonged period, your account could go into delinquency and be sent to collections. Late payments can also affect your credit score. The number lenders use to help judge whether to give you loans and credit. Your payment history accounts 35% of your credit score. So a history of late and missed bill payments can be a major strike against your score. A poor credit score can make it difficult for you to get loans, and the loans you do get are likely to have higher interest rates. Think about that for a second. When your credit score is below 650, I said below 650, your interest for any loans that you take out, any financing that you do, you're going to have a much higher interest rate than that person that's got that 650, 700 credit score. They got a 750 or 800 credit score. If you're below 650, you're going to be paying that additional 3% in interest, sometimes more than that, depending upon the actual place in which you're doing your financing. So you do not want to be late in paying these bills, because when it trickles down where it affects your credit score like that, and you find out that your credit score keeps dropping all these points, that's not wise. But if you're refusing to hold yourself accountable and stay on top of what you have to do, then what do you expect? Do you honestly expect that a creditor is going to just give you just good credit and you've got a 550 credit score? No, sir, that's not going to happen. No. If anything, if you got a credit score, I'm going to say of 600, you can expect to be paying interest on your loans of about at least 10 to 12%, sometimes higher than that. So I want you to think about that. That's for a 600. So it could be more than that now since the Fed's raised interest, but if you've got a baseline to look at, then if you know you need some work, then that's what you need to be doing. Starting early to save for retirement. This is the 5th concept and tip for when it comes to covering what your financial, personal finances and a financial literacy should be looking like. When you start early to save for retirement, when you're young, retirement can feel far away, but putting money away as early as possible means you'll have more years to save, spreading the savings across your life rather than racing to catch up. Perhaps the biggest reason to start as early as you can, however, is the power of compound interest. Because you earn interest not only on your contributions, but also on accumulated interest. Small amounts can grow over time. If you have an employer-sponsored plan such as a 401k, you may want to consider contributing, especially if your employer offers to match your contributions. Now think about this. One thing that has actually statistically been found over time for studies and surveys is that they're finding that the millennial generation I'm not sure which one that is, X, Y, or Z. but but these young kids are now, they're actually starting to save money, which is good. The thing is you need to do more than just save that money. You need to find ways of making it work for you. So when we're at that point, it's like, what are we going to do now? Because if you've already started to save, then that's part one. Part two is making sure that the parts of your plans that you pick, you want to make sure that these are the ones that are going to bring the high end returns to the money that's sitting in that 401k. Now 401ks can be diversified. And with them being diversified, that's bringing a lot to the table, to where you being, let's say, 25, 30 years old, and you're starting to save, you do this on the continuum. I mean, on the continuum, because your retirement age is like probably way, way off. So because it's way, way off, that does not mean that the money is going to be gone. But if there's a problem, you need to make sure you're tracking it and making sure that you're working on what's necessary. Because, some companies, they do some things. And so you have to watch them. And so just from an overall perspective, 401ks are good for people to put their money in, but just make sure that you're not just putting money into something that you think is going to gain some interest and it's not gaining as much interest as it could. So just check. The next thing is getting insured. When it comes to insurance, sometimes it's best to prepare for the worst. That means making sure you have health insurance, car insurance, which is required by law. You also may want to consider renters or homeowners insurance to protect your home and belongings. If you have children or other people who are dependent on you, financially that is, it can be a good idea to get long-term disability insurance and term life insurance. Many people can purchase health and disability insurance through their employers. If you don't have that option, it's possible to go through an insurance agent, broker, or insurance company directly. So we know that it's standard that each and every person has to have auto insurance. Okay. Now, just depending upon some of the states you're in, there are a lot of states that are strictly just liability. And you have to just have liability insurance, and that's that. But most states are going to require that you still, regardless of how old your car is, that you have full coverage. Full coverage not only protects you, but it protects the other person as well, because you never know how exactly this is going to work. Which means you also want to make sure you have a reputable insurance company that you decide to use. Not just anybody is going to work. Because if you see somebody, if you see this insurance company, John Paul's insurance company, that's probably not a reputable insurance company. I mean, they probably got everything that was necessary to open, but what's going to be beneficial once you go there, and the prices for the premium on the premiums, the prices on the premiums are actually way out of sort. And so if the prices on the premiums are really, really high, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that insurance. Now, you have some insurance companies that are national, that are just high-risk insurance companies, like Progressive. Progressive is for those that have bad credit and they can't afford to pay full coverage primarily on whatever items need to be covered. So make sure you're insured, especially when it comes to life insurance. And I can tell you this: needing life insurance, you guys just make sure that again that you just let me know. If you need some understanding on life insurance and so forth, because once you get a chance to contact me, then you'll find out that I am an agent that actually sells insurance. But I'm asking each and every last one of you, please get insured. There's the other things is taking advantage of credit card rewards. And the last thing is choosing your bank wisely. And again, as I said, you want to choose a bank that's not going to take all of your money. They're not feeding you to death to where when you go and you want to take out a loan, it's a fee for processing. It's an application fee. All of these fees are just way too much and it's not necessary. But this is how they're making money off of you. Next thing is a current financial landscape. Now, what this is we're talking about the state of the economy right now. We're talking about the state of your personal finances. We're talking about how your personal finances are dependent upon current economic environment, which includes market trends, inflation rates, and the employment statistics. Now, folks that got political and they're still political, and they're talking about, the unemployment rate under this current administration. If you all remember, the employment rate dropped at one point. It was under 3%. And so even with that being said, people still were saying that there was a lot of bad things going on and so forth. And my thing was, people are going to say what they want to say regardless of the case. But this is where each and every individual that's listening to this show tonight, you need to make sure that you're following all of this data so you can get all of the information that you're hearing from me right now. Okay. What's happened is you've heard people talking about, that right now the economy is bad. The economy is not bad. As a matter of fact, the economy just does not work for everybody. So I'm going to give you guys a few things to think about here and tell you some things about what happened and how you can actually see how these trends are working and what's going to be best for you, how you can make that determination. The pre-COVID boom. And so when I say the pre-COVID boom, this is stating that the American economy has been disappointing for much of the past half century. Income and wealth growth has been slow for most families, and inequality soared. Perhaps the starkest sign of the problems, life expectancy in the U.S. is now lower than any other high-income country and isn't especially close. Now, before I go on with that, let me just say, remember it was like 5 years ago when we were talking about people were living long. They were living much longer than expected. Okay, of course, still women were outliving men. And, with all that being said, it was just so much that, they don't know, there was actually no idea how to keep the economy balanced, and that it probably would not be. That was not the case. And so what this is telling us during this pre-COVID boom is that there's still Still, there have been a few brief periods when the economy has boomed. One of them began late in Barack Obama's presidency and continued during Donald Trump's term, which is false because under Donald Trump, there was no growth. The country finally emerged from its hangover after the housing crash and businesses expanded and consumers spent more. Well, just so you know, people are still spending more. And before we went into this high inflation rate, it was recommended and it was said several times over and over again via the feds that people need to stop spending money. Because if you guys notice, everything in price was going up. And as they were going up, nothing was coming back down. And so unless you just thought that prices can just come down just like that, who do you know is giving away their money like that? No company. Because if companies gave back that money, the majority of them would be out of business because that's just how big the profits were. The next thing here is we got the COVID crash. And we're talking about the COVID crash. That's when the pandemic actually arrived. People stayed and cut back on spending, businesses. Businesses laid off workers, and the unemployment rate exceeded 10%. Experts understandably worried that the economy could fall into a vicious cycle in which companies went out of business, families couldn't make loan payments, and banks went under. Oh man, this was horrible because this affected each and every individual on the face of this earth. If you were in America, you felt that. So, because of the administration that was in at the time of COVID's arrival, the economy basically was close to going into the tank. People were dying of COVID. Nobody was working. People were scared to socialize with each other, and everybody was on Zoom. Zoom was the benefactor of everything that transpired during that time. We had an administration that was scaring people, telling people to drink bleach. You know, people were scared to be around folks because they didn't know if COVID was jumping up next to. You didn't know if it was like on a seat. I mean, it was just, COVID was like running people crazy. It gave so many people PTSD that a lot of people just didn't know if they were coming or going. But the effects of this, from an economic perspective, is basically, it caused a lot of people to spend money frivolously by ordering stuff via Amazon. Amazon was another one that benefited from the COVID situation, because when they were selling them packages, they were selling them packages. I mean, people was ordering like crazy, and every day you got an Amazon delivery, and when the driver's coming up, they got a mask on. They won't come close to your door. They will start putting stuff on the steps. But at any rate, the moral to this is that from a personal perspective, this caused people to spend money, much more money than they had in other ways, which was not a good thing. And it's all because you had this source of anxiety and you had this feeling that you had to do something in order to make yourself feel comfortable. But you weren't thinking that all this money that you were spending and how frivolously you were using it, that what it could have meant for you to have that money after the pandemic really slowed down. Because it's not gone anywhere, it's just slowed down. That's all it is. The next thing is too hot to recovery. The too hot to recovery. Now, this also at this time, that this trend was totally a boost for the economy. You all remember those stimulus checks that you got? You got those stimulus checks in what was that? 2021 and 2022, or was it 2020 and 2021? Or it could have been all 3 years. That it worked because what did people do when they got those stimulus checks? You guys went and deposited them into your bank account, and just as that money went in, it was out because you were spending it. We weren't thinking long term. We were thinking about, oh, I'm locked up, I'm shoved up, I'm just in this place, I'm stuffy, so I need to buy me something. And you're trying to buy yourself something every day. So, at any rate, this is when inflation went up to its highest rate in over an almost a century. Inflation went way up. This is when you start to see pricing increasing. And when those prices started increasing, some of you were still out there spending money, and the government is telling you to stop spending money because all of this money that's in the economy is too much. There's too much money in the economy. Please stop spending this money. Now, as a result of people not listening and still spending that money, everybody that's at middle class and below is feeling all that pressure because prices are so high, and they're so high that you can't even, what used to be just a regular everyday thing when you go and you do your grocery shopping for the month, where you had a low bill, now you got a high bill. If you were spending $200 a month for groceries when you did your full shopping for that month, turn around now at this point, that $200 is now almost $500 a month. That's how high prices have gotten. People, we need to really be looking and sitting down and thinking about how we're spending this money and how money is going to work for us. If you're not being wise with your money, then you're just going to be out. That's not good for anybody. We don't wish that for anybody, but we've all got to get wise and hold ourselves accountable, because you cannot continuously to just spend money like this and let these companies just rake you over the coals and just take your money in and you get nothing back in return. Because when you got to suffer just so you can just do your everyday, just to shop, to live every day, and you can't afford it, we have a problem there. Now, you've got to think, you're either going to work to solve that problem, or you're going to continue to be a part of the problem yourself. This last thing about this, when we talk about a healthier recovery. Now, the economy has recovered from all of that, but what I will tell you is that the economy does not work for everyone. And because it does not work for everyone, people are blaming this administration for the downfall. That's not true. That is definitely not true. Because of the regulatory situations that are at stake, there's a lot of things that the government cannot do. There's a lot of things the government cannot do. And so they can only try to influence these companies to lower prices. But if they lower prices, they're not going to lower them no more than 2%. So just think about this. You go to the store and eggs now cost you $7 a dozen. If you're spending $7 for a dozen of eggs, they're not going to lower that price no more than $1. $1. And so if that's the case, then you're still spending too much for eggs. That's just an example. So now we're going to talk about some other trends here, that's going to impact your personal finance. And what we're going to be talking about here is in today's dynamic global economy, mastering personal finance demands more than routine budgeting. It requires a strategic approach to navigate your ever shifting tides of economic trends. As a thought leader in the realm of personal finance, I present a concise guide to empower individuals in making informed decisions amidst the complexities of our financial landscape. Those things are, I'm going to give you these numbers here. They go from 1 to 5. Number 1 is understanding macroeconomic trends. And the macroeconomic trends consist of the global economy, because we have to factor in GDP, and also we got fiscal spending, as well as we got monetary spending. And that's the same with both the budgeting and so forth, because there's a whole bunch of factors that go in, which includes unemployment. And so with this being said, you have to account for the whole entire economy in order to come to what's actually going to happen to you, the one individual. Okay? So if we factor in all of that, and let's say you got these larger corporations, they've got to get theirs, and they're going to get theirs. They're not giving you their profits. So with unemployment, like I said, at one point has been so low, and as low as it has ever been, they're now getting to the point now where you got companies that are just saying, well, we're just going to lay off people. They're not willing to share those profits. They're willing to lay off people. Then 3 months later, come back and bring in people to fill your position at a much cheaper rate. Number 2 is technology's impact on personal finance. Technology is where everything is. AI has taken over. AI has taken over. Get over it. It's not going anywhere. We all got to pay for that. We all have to pay for that, even though we all do not use it. Technology is here, and it's more advanced today than it's been over the last 35 years. Now you've got robots now in some places where people don't see them during the day, but they're out at night. Investing wisely in volatile markets. This is something we're going to have to talk about at another time, because I want to make sure that I talk about investments, but investments are so in depth. No, I'm not a market specialist. There's some things that I do know, because I have actually, and I do invest in the stock market. So I can only tell you some of the things that I do, but I can also point you guys in a direction in which you can go and learn for yourself and try to do some of these things into the market. But I would not suggest putting all of your money into this, because if you don't know what you're doing, and it's going to cost you an enormous amount of money to get a broker in order to buy stock for you and so forth, that's a whole lot. So that's another show. The other thing, number 4 here, is the role of policy changes. Policy changes are those that they make within our federal government every day. So when they're doing all of these bills that they're passing, and they're passing all of these laws and policies that they're signing up there in Washington, D.C., those policy changes do not include any of us that's under that 1%. It's all about the 1% when it comes to that, because they're going to get theirs off the top regardless of the case. So that means that all these scraps that we're all fighting for underneath that, then that means that we need to be wise about how we use this money and where we're getting this money from. And the final thing here is building resilience through financial literacy. Financial literacy is one of the most important things in the world. The thing is, we all don't know it, we all don't have it, and we all use it in many different ways. But we all got to get to a point where we sit down and we just buckle down, and we realize that just when it comes down to it overall, we've got to be accountable, and we've just got to be a whole lot more smarter. And if we're not smarter, we cannot blame anyone but ourselves. It's not about the time of being selfish, because I think now is the time to think that if you're doing anything financially, and if it in terms where you have the opportunity to work with someone, or someone is willing to partner with you on some things that you want to do, I suggest that you take them up on that and you really get to learn exactly what it is. You don't jump in instantaneously, but you want to learn, because I think that's where you and your partner will be able to feed off each other, where you know exactly what's going on. Now, I'm going to tell you something about how you want to budget. When it comes to budgeting, I know we talked about that in the beginning, but there's so many other different ways that you guys can do this, because there are things where you can set up on a 50-30-20 budget. There's the budget of where you're just doing just expense budgeting. And when you're doing expense budgeting, if you just want to just save and not have to worry about so much, then you don't have to worry about what is that you're allowing. Because the thing is that most people are doing now, when I mentioned the 50-30-20, is that most people are allowing 50% of their earnings to just be about their needs. And so if it's just about your needs, it is just 50% there, and then you got 30% for your wants. Then that other 20% is for your savings and debt. So what that means is that as long as you break that down within the 50-30-20, what it's going to do is it's going to help you to have that ability to save that much more money, to where you can start growing some money, where you don't have to worry about, what's going to be damaging, or, what's going to happen, or what has happened, because you'll just hope. We never know when, a catastrophic event is coming, but having something saved, especially when you start, is always a good thing. And so with this, what I'm actually planning to do is, I'll either post this on my website, or I'll just do a slide presentation with this, and I'll just post it on the YouTube channel. But these are things, very important tools that I want you guys to start learning and thinking about, and pulling this in and just actually doing very beneficial for you in the long run. And the next thing here is the guide for diversification. I'm not going to get a chance to get to all of this, but this is going to have to be, again, this is going to, I have to pick this up on another show. But when I'm talking about this diversification, this right here is about where you're moving your money around to. If you're getting stocks, if you're getting bonds, you got an IRA, you got some annuities, you have, maybe just some companies in general that you're going in as part ownership. All of these good things about this diversification. These are the things that are going to actually help you to actually pull in all of your money and make it grow that much easier and that much faster, because it's spread out in many different areas. And if they're all growing, then your money is growing. And the last thing I want to talk about that I have here that I have to pick up on another time is debt management and strategies. This is very, very important. And so what's going to happen is, again, I've got to find the way in which I'm going to actually post this, because I want you guys to be able to go to my YouTube channel, America in Black and White, and you guys are going to be able to get this. And actually, I want to make it interactive. But again, this is the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. But we'll pick this up at another time. I want to thank you guys for watching this show tonight. And, for each of you that has watched the show, again, I want to appreciate you for taking the time to be here with us. We want to make sure that you guys had some some part of financial literacy, some things that you can start thinking about. And we'll carry this over where we'll actually be more interactive on the YouTube channel. So until that time, you guys have a great evening. I want to thank you all for being here. And as you guys were here tonight, I'll see you guys the next time. And you all have a wonderful evening. And thank you again.